All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this hearing to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory and the home and the traditional lands of the Ojibwe and the Cree Dakota people, and then the national homelands of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this afternoon. Introducing the panel members is Diane Knight via Zoom and Mr. Richard Whitbread via Zoom. Our recording secretary is Jaswinder Kumar, and representing the city from the assessment department is Victoria Ho. This afternoon, we'll be hearing an application for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matter for which revision is requested has been described in each application, and will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at this hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board decision in respect to application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing this afternoon, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. It will be then the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then it'll be the applicant's testimony, followed by questions. Each side will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket this afternoon. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. This afternoon, we'll be hearing items 1 to 7 on the docket. Mr. Kumar, can you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Victoria Ho.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Mercury, please state your full name.
James Mercury.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All righty. I didn't realize Mr. Mercury was there. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Ho, we are going to proceed with the docket, so we will deal with 580 Academy Road. So the floor is yours in regards to your presentation.
Mr. Chairperson, Mr. Mercury is only here for one property, and there's a penalty request on 2795 Pembina. I'm just wondering if we can accommodate him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go, Ms. Ho. We are going to go to 2795 Pembina Highway. Ms. Ho, the floor is yours, and we're going to be talking about the non-co-op. So you can just briefly read the roll, etc. The floor is yours.
All right. Sorry, just give me a moment. So file number 22-3402 This is in regards to roll number 030929855350. Address is 2795 Pembina Highway. This is a strip mall located along Pembina. There is a recommendation for a request for non-cooperation based off of Section 53B of the Municipal Assessment Act. If there was a reduction in assessment ordered, we asked to be followed Section 54, 32, 3.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act. In regards to the non-cooperation, we have on page 11 and page 12 that there was mailer sent, but we did not receive a response. There was a delivery back in June 29th, 2021. And there was another, and on page 12 there of my brief, you see that there is a detailed tracking of the property back in that was sent out in June 10th, and it was returned, and then there was a final notice in June 15th. It was unclaimed by recipient. Item was returned on the 27th. Item was processed, and item was returned to sender. That is all for my request.
All right. Mr. Newfield, Mr. Mercury, the floor is yours in regards to the non-response.
Yes, just some questions, Ms. Ho. A little bit confused by the request for non-compliance. First of all, have you included the actual mailer itself?
No, I did not include the actual mailer itself.
All right, and if we look at the tracking document, which is at page 12, this actually indicates that it never did get to the recipient. Am I correct?
Correct.
So if we don't have the mailer and we don't have delivery of the mailer, could you please maybe help me understand on what basis the assessor is requesting a deferral order?
It was just generated automatically from the system. I just double checked whether or not we received a response on our database. We didn't receive. I believe this one was the one that we received a 2019, but we did not receive a 2020. But we did receive a 2021 mailer response. It could be possible that there was a change in mailing address, and that was probably the reason why we did not receive a response, and there was a return to sender.
Okay, so now that you have had an opportunity to review this, are you still maintaining your request for non-compliance and deferral?
No, I withdraw it.
Okay, thank you. I think that will deal with the matter expeditiously, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you. Mr. Mercury, is that your part? Can we either I don't think there's any need for you to stick around now because of this.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I will depart. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mercury. Mr. Newfield, do you want to go back to the original and then come back to here? Or what would you like to do?
It doesn't matter. The matter's resolved. You call it. Where do you want to go?
Okay. I don't know, panel members, if we have to take a recess. I think it's or should we discuss it off camera? Diane, Richard?
She said she's withdrawing it.
Yeah, okay. So there's no need. Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. So that we get everything, I think we'll go back to the start of the docket and deal with 580 Academy Road. And we know that the non-co-op for the Pembina property is not going to be, it has been withdrawn. So, Ms. Ho, we'll go back to 580 Academy Road, so the floor is yours.
Okay, so we're looking at file number 22-3868 for roll number 12071360 for address 580 Academy Road. The assessed value in dispute is $1,539,000 for the roll year 2023, based off of a reference date of April 1st, 2021. This is a commercial strip mall that's built in 1961, with a leasable area of roughly 6,000 square feet. If you go to my page 3, there's a request for income information that we have received, and there's subject sale history that's been consideration of $1 with sworn values, multiple sworn values, but I believe it was a portfolio, maybe part of a portfolio sale or agreement, which is not, we would not consider. Page 4, we have rent comparables for the subject property. We're looking at properties along Corden and Grant Avenue and Academy, looking roughly premises ranging from 800 square feet to less than 1,500 square feet. Rents ranging from $17 to $24 a square foot. I tried to find leases that were newer. The oldest one is probably September 1st, 2015, but as recent as December 5th, 2020. And then you can see on page 5, there's the income workup. Page 7 is the capitalization rate chart. Page 9 is a general map of a general view of the subject property located on Academy. And then page 10 to page 15 is the response from the owner or the management. And that is my presentation for the moment.
Thank you. Mr. Newfield, questions?
Yes, thank you. How did the age change from 1961 to 1992?
Someone reviewed the property when there was possibly updates to the property. So may it be roof, windows, facade, insulation, or updates to the property and added an effective year built to reflect that the property has been updated.
Oh, in that work, there was no change to the foundation or the framing, was there?
Not that I know of.
And did they do remediation for methyl trichloral?
For like dry cleaning.
Yeah.
I'm not aware.
And the sale you mentioned, you're not looking at, but you're aware that this has been a Quinton's property for quite some time?
From my understanding, it's a dollar sale. I was not looking at it, and I'm assuming it's probably part of a portfolio sale.
An internal sale, though. Yeah. Okay, because it was owned by the Quintons, and now it's owned by a company called 5Qs, and there's 5 Quintons.
Okay. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Had to look at that one. The page 5 is all by the model.
Correct.
And did you take a look at the rent roll and the statements?
a while ago. From my understand, I believe that the rent roll is, okay, so what we have for model is lower than what we have, what's disclosed. From my understand, there's no disclosure that it's a gross rent. So it looked like it's a triple net rent, and what we have on the model is lower than what we have, and then what's already disclosed. So I calculated, the first that they're ranging from around $18 to $17. Most of them are $18 a square foot.
Well, I'm just looking at your page 10, where the net operating income, not including the non-recoverables, is $98,599, and your potential income is a bit higher than that at $101,478, correct?
I am looking. Yes, correct.
Okay, and they also in the mailer indicate that they lost a tenant during COVID. Is that considered? That's on page 15.
15.
15, yeah.
Okay. And so from what I understand, there's a new tenant that replaced them shortly afterwards, I believe.
But they did lose a tenancy, and you're talking about a new tenant. Is that post-reference?
I don't remember exactly when they came online, but I'm assuming it was shortly after.
You're speaking of a cannabis shop?
I believe so.
Okay. And I'm just looking at Street View, and I note that was actually post-reference in June of 2021 that they're showing up. Okay. And in regard to this valuation on page 5, do you account for the former dry cleaning use in here? Is there any way, does the model know that there were chemicals used on site at one point?
I believe that Perth just has their dry cleaning done off-site at a different location, and then they get shipped back to the dry cleaning retail location.
Yes, but you're aware that they started doing this in 1961 on site.
I'm not aware.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thanks.
I thank you, Mr. Newfield. Ms. Knight, questions of the assessor?
I do. On the mailer for COVID, it shows Perth's closed October 31st, 2021, but the new lease started January 1st, 2021. Is that in the same place? Or are those two different items, two different rentals on that? Or is it a date mistake on the mailer?
No, no, it says new lease I'm not too sure. Maybe it's a mistake.
Okay, and the other question I have is on the mailer. It says that the square footage is 5,948. I mean, you're at 5,937. Not a big difference, but a little bit anyways. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread, questions of the assessor?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. I just have a couple. Ms. Ho, was there any permits taken out for this, for the renovations that have taken place over the years or anything like that?
I don't believe very recently, just only occupancy permits and update and a fitting for, and possibly fitting for the new tenant, like the cannabis store, to replace the parts.
And the evaluation for the subject property, all model driven,
Currently, yes.
no overrides at all?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. All right. Mr. Newfield, your presentation.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just looking back through the history of this property and the dimensions, and you'll note that we use a slightly different dimension as well.
Yeah.
And it gets worse than this. I have a different measurement every year on the property. I'm reading the income and expense submissions in prior years. I have a 5910. I have got and then they're all over the board. So obviously, I don't think any of us have real accurate numbers. I don't think that hampers what we're doing today.
No.
But we're chasing the income, not the size. And so the calculation of rent is based entirely off the form, but there is one small error. Note that the person who did this put in the non-recoverables. I don't think that that's appropriate. I think we should have used 98,599 for income and then put in non-recoverables, or not claim the non-recoverables, because we are double dipping here. And I like to be accurate. What I'm going to do, because I like simple and the numbers are very close, we're going to use the 92,800. The vacancy is calculated by the Johnson report, which is retail, and I guess Charleswood is the closest, and we blend them and we get 4.4. And non-recoverables, I'm just going to delete the non-recoverables, the 4436, because it has been accounted for already. And although, it was accounted for at 5,800, but in terms of percentages, the way it's cut back after vacancy, it's close to the same number. So my NOI goes upwards to 84,424, and the cap remains the same, and so my new value is 1164. 1,164,000. Briefly discussing the cap rate, this building was built in 1961, and back then, all dry cleaning sites were doing their trioethylchloroline or whatever it was on site. The chemical was effectively discontinued I believe it was in the 70s, and then banned a bit later. And no one uses chemicals for cleaning anymore. But last time I remember reading this, that the half-life of it is well over 100 years. So whether or not any exists isn't the question. It's the uncertainty over whether or not there's going to be a cleanup required. So if someone buys this building, they do a phase one all the time. Phase one is a file review. In the file review, they note there's a dry cleaner on premise, which means that phase two gets automatically ordered. Phase two is drilling and testing. So it's just a more of an uncertainty. So you got a potential buyer now. He's knowing he's going into phase two. He's dropping his price to deal with the uncertainty or the cost of the phase two, which running now $20,000-$30,000. And then the bank will demand it for sure. And banks have this tendency where there's positives, they will have lower ratio loans and often higher interest rates. So those are the downsides to it. And in those of us who have been around for a while, remember, we all love the story of stigma. 2 points for stigma. It's not 2 points for stigma, but you can see that we are applying about an additional. Probably this property would cap around 7% normally, and we're putting 7.25. So it is a change, and that it reflects also Manitoba Conservation and their current outlook on life. It's more just the uncertainty and the way it could mess up a deal. I work in real estate, and the scared agents who can have their deals messed up by something like this is bad. So that's why we're at that rate. Retails are going to be between good retails, 6 to 7% is a fair number, and we're just a slightly higher, and that is 1164 based on the cash flow. Thank you. Oh, last point. My number is a bit lower. If I had a higher area, because I'm using actuals, the value would be lower, but the shortfall would be higher. That's just one of the ironies of having the wrong number. Working on the cash, though, we're good. Thanks. That's my presentation.
I thank you. Ms. Ho, questions of Mr. Newfield?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Knight?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, anything?
Just a question for you, Mr. Neufeld. You showed an effective date, it looks like 1973, 20 years lower than what the city showed. Do you know how you arrived at that?
I can tell you, I have this database. Let me just check this. It'll be very quick. Years ago, about 2007, I got this database of every property in Winnipeg. So just want to see what they're saying on this one. We're at 580 Academy. It could be a very simple typo. I have 1961. Okay, I know how it came to that. They used to have a variant age, which is the effective age of 1973 in the old assessment cycle, which they've changed so far. But no, I don't dispute 1961 as the start. That's what we should have put on there. But it's noteworthy that 20 years ago, they said the effective year was 1973, and today it's 1992.
So you're not disputing the 1992 then?
No, 1961 is the start date.
Okay, I hear you.
Now, maybe this is where we got our 5885 from. No, it's a brand new number, 6146.
Thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. Mr. Neufeld, just a small question. Your cap rate, you had mentioned that you would normally use probably maybe 7%, but because of the chemicals on site, you're adding 0.25% to the cap rate?
Yeah, I think it's been a long time, and I think what we're looking at here is probably some minimal costs and some delays. Normally these things cap 6 to 7%, and when you look at their tenants on there, these are all local tenants. There's no one with a international flavor, a good covenant, so it's going to be 7 just based on that, and then 0.25 point for the uncertainty factor.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Either party wants summation. Ms. Ho, anything summation?
No, thank you.
Mr. Neufeld?
No, we're good, thanks.
All right. Let's go to the next property, which is 1235 Pembina Highway. Ms. Ho, the floor is yours.
Thank you. We're looking at file number 22-3300. Roll number is 0307148010. Address is 1235 Pembina Highway. We are looking at a dispute of the assessed value of $3,702,000 for the roll year of 2023, based off of a reference date of April 1st, 2021. This is a commercial strip mall. We are looking at a leasable area of 12,000 square feet and 12,250 square feet. Actual year built is 1998. You can see that we received our requests for mailers were sent and received in 2019 and 2020. We are looking at page 4, and pardon me, something caught in my throat. And we're looking, so in like page 4, I have separated 2 comparables. We have comparable rent of C7 and comparable rent of C4. And on my page 5, we have a comparable rent comparables of C2. C7 is your government properties, such as the Manitoba Liquor Commission or MPI. Rent comparables for C4 is usually your standard restaurants. And then C2 is for like your standard retail or office space finish. And page, so if you can see, the rent comparables for C7 are a little bit all over the place. Try to find the properties are located, the premises are located on other, their newer leases in more higher traffic areas, larger lease areas, leased area rented. My C4s, I try to find premises that are along Pembina Highway, closer of the subject property. And I try to look for leases that are closer to the reference date of April 1st, 2021. The areas range from, the price per square feet range from $18.50 to $30 a square foot. My rent comparables for C2, again, try to find some in a similar area, try to be as close as possible, rather than super South Pembina or downtown. The areas range from 900 square feet to 15,000 square feet. Triple net rents ranging from shy of $18 a square foot to $22.50. My page 6 shows the model workup. These are all model generated rents, and this is all model generated information. So vacancy, expense, structural expenses, shortfall, capitalization rate, and then looking at page 8 again is the cap rate chart. Page 10 is two lovely pictures of the subject property. You can see the liquor mart and the various tenants. And then from page 11 onwards is the response from the landlord / management company, and that is all I have for this property today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Newfield, questions?
I do, and this is a little bit strange question, and if the assessor does not wish to answer, that's fair ball. We were engaged in some discussion earlier on, and I think we ran out of time. There was some deliberation about a value, and I'm wondering if the assessor is still interested in that value.
Ms. Hope?
Yes, I would be interested in that value.
Okay. We really didn't have time to look at the number, and now that I'm seeing the numbers, I think it's acceptable. If you put it forward as a recommendation, I'll accept it.
Ms. Ho, tell us about the recommendation.
I can put forward as a joint recommendation. Is that all right?
Yep.
As a what? As a what?
Joint recommendation.
Joint?
Yes.
All right, that's fine.
We're
Yes.
looking. So
Just
we're
tell
looking,
us.
okay, we're looking at $3,411,000, adjusting just by adjusting the cap rate to 7%. But using the same, the model rents and the same NOI, just an adjustment in the cap rate.
We have the same potential rent, so.
Yeah, I noticed that. Mr. Newfield, you're in agreement?
Yes, it's a joint recommendation, as the assessor mentioned.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
None.
No, sir.
All right. Let's move on then. 2795 Pembina Highway. Ms. Ho, the floor is yours, and you have withdrawn the non-co-op, so there's no issues here. So the floor is yours.
Great. Okay, so we're looking at file number 22-3402. Roll number 030929855350. Address is 2795 Pembina Highway. Excuse me. We're looking at the assessment is under dispute is $2,450,000 for the year 2023. For the reference date April 1st, 2021. This is a commercial strip mall. Built in 1981, looking at a leasable area of 13,100. And now, if we move on to my page 4, we can see I have a lovely chart, well, couple lovely charts of rent comparables of C9 and C4s and C2. C9, I believe, is mezzanine and storage area. And so we have two on Ness, one on Buffalo, and somewhere all the way in Pembina. The rents are a little bit lower in comparison. I believe it is. It's mezzanine. No, leasable basement. I am sorry. These are leasable basement spaces that are leased out. And then C4 is restaurant lease spaces. I tried to find properties located on the southern end of Pembina in roughly similar square footage, newer leases. They're ranging between $19 a square foot to $24 a square foot. And I have C2 comparables, which is your standard retail or office finish space, which ranges from $19 to $27 a square foot. Page 6, you see my lovely market income workup that is all model generated. So we have the basement lease area of $6 a square foot. And then then we have the restaurant and retail spaces. And then you can go, page 8 again is my lovely cap rate chart. Page 10 is the street view and aerial view of the subject property. And then skipping page 11 and page 12, which was the non-compliance thingy. We will ignore that. Page 13 onwards is actually IE information from 2019, just to have something to take a look at. And that is all and that's my presentation for today for this property. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield, questions of the assessor?
Yes. In your sorry, obviously page 6 is all model generated then?
Correct.
And you were talking about some rents, and you had some inclusions here of rent. Do you have any rents here for basements?
Yep, that's my C9. That's my first chart on
okay. Page
4. So
I thought I heard you say that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So C9. Now 1483 Pembina, that's not a basement, that's a split level, isn't it?
I'm not too sure.
It's our property, it's a split level. And that's a half, the first level. It's not quite a basement. Those are office, correct?
I'm not too sure. I believe it is an office. It's used as office area, but like I said, it was inputted as C9, so that was the best I could do to provide.
Yeah. Well, the model has it at $6.01, and did you note what the rent roll had it at?
I'm taking a look. So
$4.25.
yes, $4.25. Correct.
Okay. And does the model, when it comes to determining a capitalization rate, take into account that you have basement space? Is that one of the factors that applies?
I'm not too sure. Probably.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Diane, questions of this?
I have no questions, thanks.
Mr. Whitbread?
I was curious as well, following Mr. Neufeld's line of questioning. The model seems to have taken the rents that are significantly higher, or sorry, lower, and charged a higher rate. So this would not be an adjusted rate for your rent per square feet at the 1364. Would that be a weighted average or an average in total of those rents? Are you following me?
Can you repeat the question?
Well, I'm seeing 1364. Bear with me, just let me look again. So I'm seeing 1364, but I'm seeing on your comparables significantly higher rates. Pretty much throughout your comparables until we get to C9s. And even then, you've got some 22, you've got 22, 14, 50. Do you do an adjustment on your rent when I see something like this, Ms. Ho? Or is this pure model?
Sorry, where are you seeing the 1364? I'm sorry.
I believe that's your rent per square feet. If I take the calculation of your 178,706 divided by 13,100 square feet.
Oh, you're looking at the blended.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was very confused. I was confused for a moment. Yeah, these rents are all model.
So it is pure model. There was no adjustment anywhere along the way. Okay, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
I thank you. I have no questions. So, Mr. Neufeld, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I really hate doing this stuff because I see stuff that I don't like, errors all the time. This one goes in our favor. You'll note that we had used a number of the potential income at 175,000. And if you read the statement, and we both put in the same statement, the number is 167,283. There's a calculation further below that says 175, but that's based on prior period adjustments to the expense side. So the actual potential income is 167,283, not as we've stated in here at 175,776. I'm not going to change it because that's a downward value influence, but I'm going to keep it in mind. It's our mistake. Again, vacancy the same way. We looked at Fort Garry, Winnipeg retail overall, and then Fort Garry retail, and use a blended rate. That's just to avoid sample size errors, stabilization. The Fort Garry vacancy rate, though, it's a fairly large sample size, so it's not likely to be an error. But we decided that this is the model we wanted to use at the beginning of the year to stabilize all sorts of variances because of COVID and because of all the issues going on in retail. Fort Garry sample size is 4.3 million out of 18 million in total, so it's a good indication, fairly close to the city average. In this case, the leases are net and there are non-recoverables, and 5% is what we applied. I'll remind you that that's based on our workup on page 40 and 41, which are Collier's managed properties. And incidentally, this was a Collier's managed property for a while, but the group owned it got so large they became self-managed. The numbers are clear on all of these properties. Is that in this case we're showing 9.81% mean. The median is about 7.01%. All income coming into a property has non-recoverable. Some years there's none, some years it's high. And so the concept of putting 5% and then 2% is the method by which you stabilize it over the years, and you tell an investor how much you're actually going to make, what's the cash at. And it's the assessment department model is artificial. This is the way the market works. We sell properties. We've got to do this. It's appropriate. Shortfall calculations slightly different. We were just looking at the actuals, and when you look at the actual rents, you should be looking at actual shortfalls. And our NOI, which I told you was a bit over-reported, is that at sorry, I was just looking at the assessor's shortfall. It's $9 and we're lower at $7.90. So you can see we're not cherry picking things and looking for the best of both worlds. We just believe in the actual. So the NOI 139,077 capped a bit higher, and really the big issue on this one is well, there's a couple. When you look at the layout of this, I don't know if anyone remembers this property from years ago, but that basement was constructed for a European health spa. And over the years, it's been a pool hall. I don't know what it is now. It's something else. But the property at one time extended all the way to the railway at the back. Now, the same owner owns the two lots on our page 1 to the left and to the bottom. And what he has done is reconfigured the space to create more parking for his apartment project, which is at the rear. So it was a reconfiguration. Now, with that reconfiguration, this property did lose parking space. When you have 13,000 square feet of retail space, your requirement is approximately 53 parking stalls, and I don't think it's hitting 53. But what they have is a sort of a arrangement, common ownership on time sharing of parking. So if this property were sold, that arrangement ends because there's no more common ownership. So that's a negative on the cap rate side. These are just all small issues. The big negative is the basement. It's not good. You're never going to get more than $4 or $5. On our workup, you'll see that we have some other basement rents that are just exactly the same. Where is it? Oh no, it's not here. Okay, well, the hearing I had this morning, I had all the basement rents. $4 to $5 is what anyone's getting for the basement space, and because in this case it's such a large chunk of the income, it's also an impact on the place. On the higher vacancy with it. In between usages, I told you it was a European health spa, went vacant for a long time. Pool hall, vacant for a long time. And then the current use. They're not hot commodities in the market. So a purchaser is going to look at it, and if, you say that the rent that it would generate is, at $425, it's going to be about $25,000 a year, you're going to discount that. you're not going to put great deal of weight on it. It's one of those, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. It doesn't fly by standard vacancy risks. And that's why I'm pushing the cap rate higher to 7.5 for that reason. And that's my presentation.
You're mute, Mr. Chair.
Ron, your mic, there you go.
I'm sorry. My phone was ringing, so I went. Ms. Ho, questions of Mr. Newfield?
No questions.
I thank you. Ms. Knight?
Rocky, sorry, did you just say your cap rate 7.75 or 7.5?
No, 7.5.
Okay, I thought you had said 7.75 and I was like, whoa, okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Either party wants summation?
No, thank you.
Mr. Newfield?
No, thanks.
All right, let's go on to 2800 Pembina Highway. Ms. Ho, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Okay, so we're looking at file number 22-2311. Roll number 0304272150. Address 2800 Pembina Highway. Assessment under dispute is $3,751,000. Reference date of April 1st, 2021 for the roll year of 2023. This is a commercial strip mall, built in 1987 with a leasable area of 12,849. Okay, so if you look at my page 3, we have our IME requests, and there's some subject sale history. The most recent is back in May 8th, 2008, consideration of $2,495,800 that was the consideration, sworn and sale price. And then you can see on page 4, and I believe, sorry, I am losing track of my spot because this is the joy of using a computer. I'm sorry. At page 4 and page 5, you can see you have rank comparables. So my first chart is rank comparables for, I believe, C4 and C2, all varying between like $19 to $27. I tried to look for properties along Southern Pembina Highway, close by, roughly close lease start to April 1st, 2021 as possible, with various different sizes for premises. And then we have and then my next chart is rank comparables for banks. And those range from $20 all the way to $33 a square foot. And again, all along Pembina, I think probably the biggest outlier is the one located at 1305 Pembina and 1890 Pembina. I think those are a little bit more north than the subject. And then you can see on page 6 is my lovely market income for all of my for the property. All of them is all model derived, and so the rents are all model derived, vacancy, expenses, the shortfall, and overall capitalization rates. And then you can see on page 8 is this capitalization chart. And then on my page 10, we have a lovely picture of an aerial map and a Google Street View of the subject property. And then from page 11 onwards is the income and expenses response from the owner and or management property, and their COVID questionnaire response. And I would also like to mention and point out that we do have that all of the most of the model rents are below actuals to the subject property. So subject property is ranging between $18 to $24, depending on the campuses. And that is all I have for today's presentation for this property. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield, questions?
Yeah, just looking now at page 6. Take it that's by the model. Why would the rent in the mall in general be $19, and yet for the bank it's $23?
I am not the model. I'm sorry. I would love to give you all the answers.
Well, I mean, it's the same space, right? It's the same building.
Yeah, it's the same building, but typically banks do have higher quality of finish, or have in comparison to the rest of the property, usually fitted with their own particular office spaces to hold or to meet with clientele, and vault bank safe to hold all the safety deposit boxes for the clients. So typically it should be a little bit higher, but like you can see in comparison to my rent comparables on page 5, it is quite reasonable at $23.72.
Well, you've got in this mall, I'm looking at page 13, and M&M Food Market, you've got freezers and extra power supply. Heat on Samosa, you've got hoods and ranges, and extra power, extra air ventilation. Fabutan, you've got higher power draws, more power usage. So all of these properties seem to have peculiarities that are a little bit different. You know, have you been and compared these sites, or are you just making assumptions?
I have not been in the site.
Okay. So on this particular, this is strip mall, the model came in at 6.35, and that I take it is, sorry, just looking for your chart, based on the chart page 8, retail strip ranging from 6 to 6.8%, the 20th to 80th, if I got the right line there.
Yeah, I believe so.
The other question is, you know, you've given it a rent for a bank. Why haven't you run a separate revenue stream with a different calculation? Don't banks have different vacancy rates and different cap rates?
This, I believe what happened at one point, this is before my time. At one point, there were separate income streams for various properties. If there, at one point, you would see like you could see in some cases a separate income stream for just the bank, if it was just for their income and how they were generating, and then the rest. Just if you see it more common if you have like a gas station is separate to the rest of the.
Well, I've just seen it with other assessments this year that they'd be running. I mean, this morning I had one with 4 revenue streams, and
it depends. In a lot of cases, a good portion of them have been consolidated, especially if it's all congruent.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the consolidation, but you have food service, you have retail, and you have banks, and other assessments are running, would maybe run 3 revenue streams here. So you're saying you're looking at consolidation? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying it, I'm just defending what the model is stating. If I don't know if it's currently appropriate to separate all of them individually, but this is what I'm able to present.
Okay, is there a basement in the bank?
I'm not too sure if there's a basement on this property.
I'm just asking to be funny. Just based on the plan area.
I'm sorry, I'm not. You had a very straight face. I wasn't so sure if that was a joke.
We've had some other debates with the board about basements and banks, so it doesn't look like there is one. It does that gross floor area 13,142, plan area 13,142.
I'm assuming it's
Those are my questions. Thanks.
I thank you. Ms. Knight,
I have no questions, thanks.
thank you. Mr. Whitbread,
I have none, thank you.
okay. Mr. Newfield, your presentation, or was that it?
No, I got a bit more. Now, the good news is that I'm not going to make any changes. The bad news is that there is an error, but I've worked through it. You'll note that the statement relied on was the 2018 statement. I don't know what that happened, but I was referring to the more recent statement that the assessor had, and you'll note that they did not put in income for the bank. So without the bank income, it's 176,085, and that's on the assessor's page 11. So 176,085. We're using a total of 239,433, which is an allocation of 63,348 for the bank, or 1950 a square foot, which is exactly what the rest of the strip mall is getting, as if it were in the same building. So I think that's a pretty fair number. It's a $19 a property. 1863 is the average. There's a few lower, but so we have, as I said, 1950 on the bank, and then various rates on the other parts. The 239,433 is supported by the most current statement. Same calculation on vacancy, non-recoverables. Again and again, I've got the broken record syndrome. You got to have them, because if you own a property, it's coming out of your pocket. It's not free. Shortfall in this case is a bit higher, and that's just a reflection of the strip mall costs. They are what they are. They have a fairly higher expense load, and I think that's more a question of the style of the user. We've got all these varied users in small units. They're all fairly demanding on services. I can see some are drawing heavy electrical load. So I think that's an appropriate number. The cap rate is 7%, and as I said earlier, 6 to 7% is where the strip malls should be going in. Our definitions on these are on page 31 in retail and strip center. Now, the issue is, if you look at our strip center calculation, these centers are often anchored by smaller supermarkets, drugstores, discount stores with a mix of smaller attached retailers. So we really have a lack of an anchor. Now, think of 1235 Pembina, which we just talked. That's got an anchor, liquor store anchor. And of course, we were talking about a 7% cap. This property does not have an anchor. The credit union would not be deemed an anchor. They're in the building, and there's a variety of small users. So I think the 7% is fair for this one as well. And our number is unchanged at 2,813,000. And the interesting thing is this is the first property we have where we're looking for a low number that's lower than the previous assessment. But the users in here were particularly impacted by COVID because there are a lot of personal services, like you couldn't go out and get a tan during COVID, well, unless you went in your backyard. But so there's a lot of these more users in this mall than ones that could operate through, and I think that softening was reflected in the earnings. Thank you. That's my presentation.
I thank you. Ms. Ho, questions of Mr. Unifield?
No questions.
I thank you. Diane, questions?
I have no questions, thanks.
Thank you. Richard, questions?
None, thank you.
Summation, either party?
No, thank you.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
And do you need to take a break, Mr. Newfield?
I'm fine now. So let's carry on and see what else we can get done.
Okay. Let's go to 1385 Grant. Ms. Ho, whenever you're ready.
I don't get a break. I'm just kidding. I'm okay.
I complain.
Majority, okay?
I'm okay. I'm just joking. Okay, so file number 22-2585. We're looking at roll number 120419181100. Address 1385 Grant Avenue. We're looking at the assessed value under dispute of $1,549,000 of the reference date of April 1st, 2021 for the roll year 2023. This is a commercial strip mall. The actual year built is 1958. The leasable area is 11,537 square feet. And so let's jump all the way to page 4. We will see that have rent comparables located nearby-ish, located on Taylor, Grant, Waterloo, and Corden, all ranging. I tried to find more recenter leases, and the lease areas vary between 1,300 square feet to just shy of 3,000 square feet. Rents, the triple net rents ranging from $15 to less than $20 a square foot. Page 5, we have the model generated rents and the vacant the income right up, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. I did not provide comparables for the substandard basement, but there is a nominal rate for the basement area. And then if we jump page 7, there's the capitalization rates charts. And then jump to page 9, there's an aerial view and a street view of the subject property. And then from page 10 onwards, you can see the response for the subject property. It appears to be a gross lease. And then we also have the COVID questionnaire on page 14 from page 14 and 15. And that is all for my presentation. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield, questions?
Yes. Now, the area that you're using now includes basement. Are there any separate leases on the basement?
No.
So now, if you look at this, you have 4 upper floor users and 4 basement units. Do they each have parent control over their own basement, to your knowledge?
I'm not aware. I'm not too sure.
Okay. Now, in this case, you're using $1.95 to $2.04 a foot for basement. The last one you used $6. Pretty wide gap. Have you been in any of these to compare basements?
Okay, so that one is more like a finished lease basement. That's like for renting. These substandard basements is more, I guess, like more for storage, from my understanding, and they're not as like nice and rentable for office space or your luxury spa, as you said.
The unit marker, the Derm Center, you're aware that was a Bank of Montreal at one point?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay, and that the basement was finished as a financial planning center?
Oh, that's cool. I do not know.
Okay. No, I'm just was wondering about this. Now, the owner in their statement did not report the basement space. Why didn't you follow their lead?
It was just what we have recorded. We keep track and record of the information for each property accordingly. At this, I didn't really have time to review or to revise the value further. So I was not able to provide a different value. But there are cases where where there are basements that have been rented out, but a lot of cases I've seen, basements have been included as part of the rent.
Do any of these basements have separate entrances?
I'm not aware. I have not done an inspection of this property, so I'm not too sure.
The financial information supplied by the owner indicates potential rent of $81,000, and you're at $115,000. Did you try to reconcile those numbers?
The thing is, these rents are really, these leases are super old leases, and they're also gross leases. So I'm not too sure. So they could, if they were so that's why I was providing market rents from comparables in the area that are more recent-ish. If you look at, okay, let's see, back to page, like if you look at page 12 again, page 12, if you squint, there's Kitson Investments. That's based on 2002. And then there's I can't read, the property that's the business under Little Caesars. I don't know if that says Samsung. Matthias? Okay. It says month to month, but it looks like it says that the lease started back in 2006. So that's why I didn't really make a real adjustment for it. Like I said, just model.
Now, how did the age get adjusted from 1958 to 1970?
You'll get the same blanket statement that I will provide. Someone reviewed the property, probably saw that there were permits for the property, either updating the facade, the windows, the roof, or taking consideration of the nature that the property has been updated. I'm not too sure with what sort of updates, to taking consideration that it's not 100% on a property back in that's original to 1958, and it probably still has its life has probably extended a little bit longer.
Well, to your knowledge, are there any permits?
To my knowledge, not recently.
I'm quite familiar with it. I think the only work they've done in the last 10 years is repaving the lot. I'm just wondering if you knew if there was other work that was done.
Not that I know of.
I got a sign, I got a CCTV system, wiring, plumbing, Dream Center interior alterations, wiring, and Bank of Montreal going back to 2002 for interior alterations. There's nothing in here that suggests a major change, is there?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, if this were in fact treated as 1958, would your cap rate be different?
Yes, that would be different.
Those are my questions, thanks.
Ron, your mic is off.
Sorry, Ms. Knight?
Just going back to this basement. So you don't know if any of these tenants are using the basement that's underneath their areas?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yeah, it comes back to the square footage for me. Maybe you explained this and I missed it, Ms. Hope. I'm adding up the leased area on the mailer on page 12, and I'm getting 6825 square feet. And you've got 11,537. Is the difference the basement that's
Yes.
substandard?
Yeah, it's including the basement into the overall leasable area.
So your model is charging 11,537 square feet at the 1005. That's the average rent. So that's what we would be looking at.
Yes.
Bear with me. I'm thinking if I'm allowed that.
Absolutely.
No, I'll leave it. I'll come back to it with Mr. Neufeld. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair. May I ask one question?
Yep.
So, you know, I was going back through the definitions, trying to race back through some of your other evidence. And in this evidence, you use substandard. Is that what I saw? Substandard basement?
Correct. Oh, no,
Yes.
the previous rent, the previous property was actually C9, which is basement leasable, which is
Right.
different.
I couldn't find that, but that's what my memory told me. And we have an 08 substandard.
Yeah,
So-
substandard is a lower quality basement use.
Yes, and one would expect that you wouldn't have a tenant in there, or you wouldn't rent it out as a separate business per se. I think I heard you say it would just be used for storage, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Could it be used for nothing?
If they're able to find a tenant, and as Mr. Neufeld had indicated, maybe the basement is actually a higher quality than what we have listed, as it was previously used for a bank, and they did have the basement as a financial center. It merits for a higher rent, as it could be a leasable space.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
I thank you. Ms. Ho, have you been inside here at all?
No, I have not.
Okay, so, I'm just, totaling up the numbers for the basement, and it's quite big.
Yes.
So sometimes, and I'm sure that Mr. Neufeld will allude to the fact that what's going on here, but sometimes when they rent the main floor, the basement is thrown in, for storage or whatever. But the model doesn't seem to, it calculates everything in regards to value. So the model doesn't, it just calculates the value. So this is what the model has done for the basement. throwing in the value, roughly, you know, it's probably $2 a square foot, roughly.
Correct.
So, yeah. So anyways, that's all I have. Mr. Newfield, your presentation.
Thank you. So this particular property, let's just say that the person who wrote this is intimately familiar with it, having worked at Little Caesars for several years. It's each site has a partial basement. Now, I was looking at the numbers the city uses. The Durham Center has a full basement under it, and it used to be a Bank of Montreal, and it had been finished at one point. Now, today it's just storage. It's included in the rent. Little Caesars has a basement. I've had to hear the story of my son hitting his head on the stairs so many times on the way down. And I think the other basements, there's only one with another basement, and it has both of the basements for the other two smaller units. So they don't really add up, but they're all provided in the rent, and they're not rentable by any standard. They're not privately, they don't have their own entranceway. They don't have their own services. They have low ceilings. They have narrow stairwells. They're not set up for human inhabitation except for the bank one, which is now, as I understand, is just not in use for anything other than storage. But basically, they're not getting any money for them because there's no money to be made on them. The income is stated on our page 12, same one that the assessor has. Each site has these are all semi-gross rents, and each site has a monthly rent and then an annual recovery amount, which is set by standard of the building operator. So you'll note that, for example, Kitson Investments. Kitson is, I believe that's a name for a haircut place. It has no recoveries for additional recoveries. It's fully gross, and the others are semi-gross. Regardless of all that, the income they're generated in this particular year was $81,931, and that's based on 134 in rent, 70,000 in recoveries, and 59,000 in expenses. Oh, sorry, 7,000 in recoveries, and 59,000 in expenses. Now, the maintenance and repair, in my mind, was probably a little bit too high this year. I know what they've done over the years because when he was younger, I drove him to work, and we've always been driving right past this mall. All they've ever done is repave the lot. But so the 15,000 is probably a little bit higher than normal, but that went into our creation of our calculation, which was just relying on nothing but the numbers, 81,000. You'll note that our vacancy in this time was 3.25%. This is something interesting. I just wanted to show you how much we're trying to follow the market. Winnipeg retail, Johnson report, 4.7%. River Heights, 1.8%. Now, the reason River Heights is so low is because it's a service-oriented retail. Like they're out to look after, provide daily services that the locals want, whereas other neighborhoods in the city, they're more general retail, you know, the type that got shut down in COVID and you got home delivery on. So it's interesting how one part of our city, you can look and analyze why they weren't as hard hit is because this is what they did. They were personal services. So interesting comment. We're using actual shortfall and costs, you know, 59,000 a year, 6,800 square feet. It's $889 a square foot. That's the cost to carry the building. NOI 71.4747. Cap rate. We've been trying to hover pretty close to that 7% mark, and you know, a couple points here and there for bad stuff. This one, 1958. Good location. It's kind of a poor design, really. A more modern strip mall would probably be done a bit differently, probably L-shaped and with a bit more exposure. and unit sizes that are adaptable. You'll note that the unit sizes here are all variable. They just as the way they're demised. You're just taking a look at the unit sizes here on here. They're ranging from 2,700 feet, 1,500, 1,300, and 1,300. The rooftop equipment is then another issue because I'm sorry, I'm just looking for the overhead shots and I don't think we've given you any. Oh, here we are, Assessor's page 9. And if you'll note the equipment, how it's displayed.
Excuse me.
So in a modern strip mall, what you would see is you would have one unit per CRU. So we have shared units here. That's another of the reasons that the rents are semi-gross, because you can't do separate metering on it. And that's kind of what you want to do in a strip mall, is to contain your costs. Is every unit, you can then get them to pay their own costs, and you know what they are. And that's should produce a better cap. I mean, we're talking a quarter point difference on these obsolescence issues, nothing major, but that's why we're at 7.25. And I did mention that I think that the income was a little softer this year because of the 15,000 in R&M. So, I mean, potentially that NOI might be $5,000 higher. I wouldn't see an issue with changing that. And then that would put the number $70,000 higher. That's a possibility. I was just, when I read these, I'm just trying to be reasonable. That's my presentation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Newfield. Ms. Ho, questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the non-recoverable since Mr. Newfield disclosed that he's using the information from the IME to get the annual net income to develop his market value. Would it be appropriate to include the additional non-recoverables expenses, even though the overall net operating income is already included?
I agree with you. I have to review these all. So yeah, for sure the NOI would be, I should put those back in, and that would come to 75,710 for the NOI. I think the repair and maintenance is on the high side this year. So I would further adjust that NOI up to $80,000. My opinion. And $80,000 at our cap rate is $1,103,000. I think that's a good point. 1,103.
Thank you. That's all of my questions today.
I thank you. Ms. Knight?
Yeah, that's where I was going, because on the I&E it says their NOI is 81,931, and that's where you started with your rent. So I think that's resolved now.
Yeah. With gross, that's the way you have to go.
I gotcha. I'm good now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
Yes, one question, Rocky. Was your son ever the boy that stood out on the corner of Waverly Grant with all the weird streamers and signage?
No, he absolutely refused to do it. But one interesting thing about this shop, where most all the Winnipeg Jets came to buy pizza. So if you're a big hockey fan, get a job at this Little Caesars if you want to meet it. Their most loyal customer was Evander Kane prior to him being traded.
That is wild. I always admired that young person. Sorry, no other questions.
All right. Mr. Newfield, I just have one question. Don't you have to give some consideration in regards to the basement space, in regards to potential rentable revenue that should be there?
Well, I think it's already been given in the rent that they're getting. Someone rents the upper space and for their amenity, they get use of the basement. That's about the only way you can extract income from these basements. I mean, these are 1958 basements. There's nothing to them. They're worse than the basement in your house.
Okay,
I
so
don't know.
basically,
Show your
so
camera around
basically-
it. I'll tell you
so
for sure.
basically what you're saying is the square foot rate for the main floor includes the basement then?
Yeah, in this case, there is. Now, I mean, you will, this particular client of mine does have a few basements that have separate entrances and can generate separate incomes. We heard one this morning, 929 Court, and they've got another one on Court. And so it does happen, but it's every case is individual. There's nothing, like I said, entrances are through the main building. And there's nobody out there renting basements.
All right. Summation, either party?
No, thank you.
Mr. Newfield?
Oh, good, thanks.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Jeswiner, you can shut us down and we will reconvene at 2:42. We are live, okay. Okay, we'll call the hearing back to order. And we will go to the next item on the docket, which is 2758 Roblin Boulevard. Ms. Ho, whenever you're ready.
You said 47?
3670.
2758? 2758? Is that right?
2758? Oh, yeah.
That's the file number.
That's file number. Okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
Right. All right. So file number 22-2758. We're looking at roll number 0100142780. Address 3670 Roblin Boulevard. The assessed value under dispute is $3,166,000 for the reference date of April 1st, 2021 for the roll year 2023. This is a commercial strip mall built in 1979, the leasable area of 16,607 square feet. Okay. We have page 3, we have a request for income information, and then we also have a registration sale, March 7, 2017 for consideration sworn and sale price of $2,550,000. Page 4 and page 5 are my comparables. I tried looking for properties along close by. Their range and as close as possible to the reference date of April 1st, 2021. We have net rents ranging from $14 a square foot to $18 a square foot. And on page on the next chart, we're looking at rent comparables for restaurant chains, ranging from $13 to $18.75 square foot. On the following page, you can see this is entirely a model derived calculation. You can see we have the standard restaurant of 5,275 square feet at $14 a square foot, and all the retail and office finish all around a tight range of around $14 a square foot. Vacancy, expenses, shortfall, capitalization rate, all derived from the model. Page 8 is the capitalization rate chart. You can see on page 10 many pictures of the property. So you see that you have an aerial view of the property from above, a street view from October 2018, a street view from June 2019, and a street view from May 2021. So you can see there was renovations done to the property. There is I have in my brief from page 11 to page 14 some permits released in detail, well, not in very much detail, of updating the property. So one of the first permit was disclosed for declared construction value of $209,303. This is landlord work, alter exterior to include new finishes and signage for the existing building of property. Alter freestanding sign that's valued at $38,000. On page 12, there's a rectification sign. Oh, I should have put that in there. Oh well. Valued at $16,400. That was issued back in November 2018. Page 14, a alter exterior restaurant for Boulevard Pub and Bistro. To alter the exterior of the patio, seat capacity of the patio of the restaurant, valued at $25,000. These are not exhaustive permits. These are just what, these are the ones I have that had declared value of the construction costs. And usually the construction costs are usually declared a little bit lower than actual costs of what is work done to the property. We have page 15, 16, 17, 18, our response from the landlord or property manager about the subject property. 19 and 20 is the COVID impact of the property. And that is my presentation in regards to this property. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield?
Yeah, it's just, so page 7, 6, 7, this is all model generated then?
Correct.
No, in this case, the predominant user is a restaurant, and again, it's a single revenue stream that you're using. Again, you're not breaking out a restaurant separately.
No.
And then the current restaurant in there, what is it?
I believe it says Boulevard Pub and Bistro on the permit. So I'm assuming it's one of those. It's a very large dine-in restaurant with a focus on like sit in, dine in, and drinking and party.
Well, I was in there a few months ago. It's now called Elena's, and prior to that, Boulevard, it was called Bluestone. And I'm just wondering, given the turnover in restaurants, if perhaps a 4% vacancy and maybe the cap rates are a little bit on the too conservative side.
I'm not too sure, but however, given that there's been new ownership quite quickly, I don't think that such a small vacancy is not a big deal, unless it was like if the restaurant's been vacant for a very, very, very long time. I think that would be an issue.
Well, yeah, but if you're turning over, it costs you more money than if you're vacant, because every time you turn over, you got to pump some money into it to get a new tenant in. They go away, and you got to start all over.
My argument would be like, it's still a restaurant. They're not. Yeah, they'll probably redo the interior and maybe the exterior for a new sign, but they still have the equipment and per se and use. From what I understand.
But how about fixturing periods? Every time you cut a new lease, it's usually 6 months free rent up front.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm just wondering. So, with this is called a strip mall, and again, I take it this comes from your page 8 under retail strip. How many strip malls are the predominant use as a restaurant? Would that not be a factor in the cap?
I'm not too sure, and maybe.
Okay, those are my questions. Thanks.
I thank you. Ms. Knight?
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Richard, questions?
You're muted.
You're muted. It's a habit.
Sorry.
Thanks.
I see you have the building dated as 1979, yet you're shown a number of improvements and what looks like a vastly different looking building from the first street view on page 10 to the third street view. And I'm wondering if you haven't changed the effective date.
It hasn't. The effective year build has not been updated yet. It will be. It will probably need to be reviewed further at this moment. I'm just asking that the value to be confirmed, given that the amount of work that has been done to the property, and it probably will command a higher rents overall, and should reflect that there is going to be a lower cap rate. Given that there is I'm not too sure if the sale is arm's length, but there is a sale of $2,550,000, and that's prior to the work done. So, like I said, that's all I'm asking for is just a confirmation.
Mm-hmm. But the work was done prior to the reference date, was it not? Looking at the permits?
I think it's looking at the pictures.
Permits are all 2018.
Not. Let's see. Issue date is 19. Yeah. But it does take time, especially during COVID. Some of the construction or renovations did take time, or the cost had increased significantly.
Sure. What's your assessment, Ms. Ho, that
but yeah,
where would your cap rate go if this had a newer effective date on it? Just speculating from your point of view.
I'm not too sure. Probably closer to 6.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Newfield, your presentation.
Thanks. I was just studying up here. Subject property was a bit of a project building, and it was part of a portfolio sale. So there's really not much you can rely on in terms of looking at the sale. There were 13 properties involved, and there were some issues related to vendor takebacks and stuff like that we really don't want to discuss. I can say that I've had a chance to review it, and it does not meet the definition of market value at all. But when it was taken over, the operation was to turn it around from previous years and improve it. You can see that when we brought this in last year, it was a basket case, more or less 1.9 million, and that was based on the income it's generating. It has improved since then, and the new owner's work is paying off. The restaurant has turned over 3 times. It was actually Boulevard, then Bluestone, now it's Elena's. And if it was up to me, Elena should have free rent because the chef is absolutely fantastic. It's Michael DeKisto who had DeKisto's, and food is just great. I'm putting in a plug here for deep fried capers and carpaccio. But anyway, the rent roll, we don't really disagree on it. I think we're a couple of dollars off. It's not an issue, and part of the reason we're varying is because you'll notice in the statement that there were some rent abatements from COVID, and which changed the nature of it, and that should be taken into consideration because it's a market factor. I think because we're so close on income, it has been considered. Our our vacancy rate calculated the same way. Again, Charleswood is a lower vacancy rate than the city because it's a service-oriented neighborhood for retail rather than a power center sort of retail thing for the neighborhood. Just another interesting issue. Shortfall was calculated on the actuals. Now, I don't like this non-recoverable here because you'll note that that's $16,000 and it's not 5%. And the reason is the person who did this looked at the statement and just copied an amount out of the statement. I have to be quite clear on this. It's not actuals you turn to on non-recoverable. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. In this particular year, they were higher, but next year they're going to be lower because we've gone through this process of tenant turnover. So that should be at 5%, and it's like $10,000. So my adjusted NOI is 199,643. I've just changed that to 5%. Increase the NOI 199,643, and capping at 725. The new number is 2,754,000. 2754. That's the rounded number. On the topic of the cap rate, and you know, every time I talk about cap rates, I won't tell you the bad stuff about things because because our cap rates are set on the perfect property, and we have to look at what are the differences to this property. And I think the major issue on it is that we have essentially a restaurant anchored strip mall that's had high turnover in a part of town that isn't hospitality oriented. This isn't an area on a busy commercial strip where there's a whole bunch of restaurants. Now think of Caniston and McGilvery. You can go at that corner and within 500 feet, you're going to find 10, 12 food service operations. They want to be there because that's where the traffic goes. You go to Charleswood and there's two maybe. So it's not, and we're at 5,000 feet too. So that's a risk level that's a little bit higher than most, not a lot higher. Again, I've said, you know, we've been focusing on 7%. So now I'm thinking 7.25 as a result. Also, because it's a restaurant, it is parking deficient. The restaurant requirement for parking is one stall per 100 square feet. So this particular restaurant at 52, what was the rate? 50, and we always round up on this, by the way. Restaurant 5275, it by itself requires 53 parking spaces. And the rest of the strip mall would be one stall per 250. So the person who wrote that, I think, was not aware of the restaurant requirement. So it's tight on the parking, and being in a residential part of town, people get very excited about parking. But so that's another issue that I would be concerned about. And we also mentioned the risk of vacancy in here as well. So that's why I was thinking of 7.25. And our value 2,754,000, which is an increase from the sale, which we weren't relying on, but still an increase. That's my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Newfield. Ms. Ho?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Knight?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
Summation, either party?
No summations, please.
Okay. Mr. Newfield?
No, we're good, thanks.
All right. Let's go to the last one, which is 741 St. Anne's Road. So, Ms. Ho, take us through that.
No problem. As soon as my computer loads. All right. File number 22-2687. roll number 080017111500. Address is 741 St. Mary's Road. This is a commercial use strip mall. Actual year built is 1986, with a leasable area of 8,705 square feet. We can go up to my page 4. There are some rent comparables located roughly in the subject area. I tried to look for close as possible, close-ish to the effective the reference date of April 1st, 2021. We have rents ranging roughly between 17 to 21 square feet. And then go to my next page, page 5. This is all model generated all the for the rents. And same with the vacancy loss, expenses, shortfall, and the capitalization rate. And you can see my capitalization rate chart on page 7. Page 9, you can see I have a lovely picture of the subject property from the street view and an aerial view. And from page 10 onwards is the response from the subject property owner or the property management. And that's my presentation for this property.
I thank you. Mr. Newfield.
Sure. I'm just trying to decipher something here. So the property is done by the model on page 5 then, that's correct? And were you able to, I'm just looking at this income and expense statement here. Did you go through this? They're saying net lease. I'm just wondering if you had gone through the exercise of trying to calculate.
Calculated a couple of them. So the largest unit at 3,000 square feet, 3,151 square feet. I got a calculation of $11.95 for this for this premise. I think it's the radio station. I have the following unit at 1,020 square feet at $16.75. 861 square feet, I got $17.95. 585 square feet, I got a rent of $19.06. The 1,100 square feet at $18. Got for the unit for 1,045 square feet, I had a calculation of $15.76.
I'm just wondering if overall you had calculated if you took the column and monthly rent, what the potential income as stated as net might be.
See, some of them, so a good portion of them are older, if I recall, and so so that's why I relied mostly on. So I didn't really.
I just calculated it to 134,364 per year, and I'm just wondering if you were anywhere close to that.
I didn't calculate it further. We ended up getting a potential. I just used model, which was the potential rent of.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you, because this is not a good statement for our purposes. And I'm just wondering if you looked at page 15. The statement, operating statement, page 16. I'm just looking at this now, and would you it appears that this rental revenue has been stated as their net operating income. I don't know if you would read it a different way or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a little odd. It says it's net, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't list any recovery.
Yeah, there's no breakdown on it. It's an accountant statement, so a little bit difficult to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just don't know if you have a better copy than mine. I'm just out of curiosity on page 10. What is line item 4? What's the name of that?
Line item 4. Give me a second. We're looking at page 10, right?
Yeah.
So under diversity here, there's Redfoot Kitchen.
Redfoot Kitchen. Okay. It doesn't sound very appetizing. But
I think it's they specialize in fried chicken.
oh, okay. All right. But you did this all by the model, and everything is there. Those are my questions. Thanks.
I thank you. Ms. Knight?
No questions, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Redbird?
I had none, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Newfield, your presentation?
Yeah, I don't know what to say with it, how this calculation was done, because I don't get it. I see the 134, 133 as revenue, and I think this expense load is overstated. I don't really see it being that high. I think that the person who read this didn't understand that this is an accountant statement rather than a net rental operating statement. I was wondering if, just going to take 1 minute to find the source information. I don't like standing behind this. It's not right. Okay, we have a different statement maybe. No, I've got the same stupid statement. Okay. To be fair, I see that they reported a different number to the city, and I think we're obligated to follow that in the absence of anything else.
Yeah, they seem to be a little off.
Yeah. And I don't know what they did for accounting. But what I'm just doing here is, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I've just made some changes here. I'm going to use the 134, 133 that the statement indicates. I think from what I've seen in accountant statements is that they tend to provide a lack of schedules, and the 134, 133 represents very similar to the number the assessor had, 134, 364 in the statement they presented. So $100 here or there isn't the issue. I think we're obligated to use 134,000. So I've changed my potential income to 134, 133, change the vacancy rate to 4%, because this is, it's not St. Boniface, it's St. Vital, but 4%, I think we're the assessors on the same page. I'm just trying to simplify this. Non-recoverables of 5%, and I think the statement does indicate non-recoverables in here. They have them 138,000, but you take off amortization and interest and some fees that seem extremely high. I think that the 5% is supported. So my NOI ends up at 116,294. in terms of cap rate, it's a newer built mall, and I think the 7% in this case is probably a very reasonable number. That comes to a value of $1,661,000. And that's what I'd like to change it to. On the cap rate side, again, there are some deficiencies. They had a vacancy problem, but that was because it was there were changes in it and turnovers, and so I don't think that there's anything special about it. It falls right in the 7% caps. $1,661,000.
Thank you, Mr. Newfield. Ms. Ho, questions of Mr. Newfield?
No questions.
Ms. White, Ms. Knight,
No questions, thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Wetbread?
I have none, thank you.
All right, I think, Ms. Ho, thank you very kindly for your presentations. Excellent job. And Mr. Newfield, thank you very kindly, and results very soon. We have heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.